Hi viewers, welcome to the paper Library and Information Center Management, Library Housekeeping Operations, Technical Services. Collection development. Collection development is a vital process in creating and building a library collection. It is a well planned activity for which a well defined policy is essential. It primarily includes acquisition, selection, evaluation, preservation and weeding out of materials or books or journals according to users' need. Collection development is defined as the planned purchase of materials in various formats to match the needs of the users. The heart of a library is its collection. The process of collection development includes selection, deselection of current and retrospective materials including gift in kinds, planning of coherent strategies for continuing acquisition, input into preservation decision. Evaluation of the collection to ascertain how will they serve users' needs. These functions are guided by a collection development policy which establishes priorities, supports efforts and facilitates decisions. The information explosion coupled with tightening budgets requires selectors to look at ways to access resources in ways beyond physical ownership, including licensing electronic databases and providing document delivery. With the advent of internet and other IT tools, there has been a shift from print documents to electronic documents such as CD, DVD, e-books, e-journals, online databases, etc. Accordingly, the collection development policy and process of library have changed considerably. New trends of consortium mode of living has been introduced by the libraries to a great extent. In this changing situation, library and information science professionals need to be aware of and acquainted with the latest changes in the collection development process of libraries. Collection development policy. Collection development policy is a set of rules or norms adopted for developing the collection or stock in a library. It helps for systematic acquisition of library materials. It also encourages stability and continuity in the library operation. The planned development of a library's collection requires the application of a well stated collection development policy. No policy can be definitive for all time since a library is not a static institution. Ideas about its nature and content are constantly evolving. Therefore, a library collection policy must be responsive to change. Collection building is the process of building up of a collection which is qualitatively relevant and quantitatively adequate. The process involves not only the addition of documents, but acquisition of multiple copies of documents which are in great demand and weeding out and withdrawal of documents also. Documents are added to the collection mainly by 4 methods. They are purchase, gift, exchange and deposit. As far as the most libraries are concerned, purchase is the major means of acquisition of relevant documents. Selection. Since no library can procure all the documents produced, there arises the need for selection. The documents produced are so vast that selection becomes a process of rejection. Space limitation also force a library to select documents. Libraries very often get suggestions from the users. Library also make its own selection. Selection process is guided by certain principles. Principles of document selection. Library professionals out of their experience have evolved a number of principles over a period of time. Though they are evolved in the context of book selection, they are equally applicable to the selection of all types of documents. A few of the principles are given below. The first principle is Drury's principle. The principles of Drury evolved in 1930 states that the basic purpose of book selection is to provide the right book to right reader at the right time. In fact, this is the epitome of librarianship. Right book is not necessarily the best book, but a book which satisfies the immediate information requirements of the user. Right reader is the person who is sincerely in the need of information, and right time speaks of the need for the providing the documents without delay. In other words, it speaks of the efficiency of the administrative machinery. Second principle is Dewey's principles. The best reading for the largest number at the least cost is the principles of Dewey. According to this principle, a library should select the best documents which may satisfy the information needs of maximum numbers of readers, taking into consideration the need for providing maximum numbers of documents. Third principle is McColvin's principle. McColvin held the view that the sole guiding principle of book selection should be demand of the user. The demand of the users provide volume and variety to the collection. But this principle offers no scope for exercising the discretion of librarian in collection building. The exercise is that there will always be a vociferous minority who demand more, and there is a chance that the collection may consist entirely of mediocre books. This was realized by McColvin later, and he himself modified the principle. Fourth principle is the 5 laws of Ranganathan. The first 3 laws of Ranganathan, that is, books are for use, every reader his book, and every book its reader, underscore the importance of careful book selection. If these laws are remembered whenever a book is selected, that will lead to the responsible selection. Selection tools. The library professionals come to know of new books or e-resources through some sources. These sources are called as selection tools. There are a number of such selection tools. The most commonly used tools for the selection of books are bibliographies, catalogs, current sources, blurbs, and book reviews. There are similar tools which can be used for the selection of digital materials, including databases. It is all the more easy to search the internet and locate the details of selection tools for different categories of documents. Acquisition procedure. Selection process. Depending upon the circumstances, there may be a committee mean for selection of documents. In a public library, public men eminent in their field from among the members of the library and members of library committee may form the committee. In an academic library, the faculty members or teachers and the division head of library, if any, and the librarian will constitute the committee. In a special library, the scientist or managers, the head of institution or his nominee, and the librarian form the committee. The librarian has to consolidate the requests from the clients and other books recommended or selected by his staff members and place the list before the committee for consideration and final approval. Based on the recommendations of the committee, the librarian may change, delete, or add the titles in the list. One thing has to be borne in mind. Though a book selection committee is useful for having a balanced book stock, its recommendation should be advisory in nature and not mandatory. The committee should ensure that the stock of every subject remain balanced. In manual method, the book selection cards prepared for each title. All bibliographical details in the documents are filled up using different selection tools. The book selection card preparation work should be done as a daily or weekly routine. Further delay is not advisable in libraries. The book selection cards are first arranged alphabetically by author under various subjects and are checked with the main catalog to find out if there is any duplication. Those titles which are found to be available in the library are removed from the group. The remaining cards are then checked with the list for which orders have already been placed. Those items which are found to be available in these sequences are also removed from the book selection list. This finalized list is sent to library committee if necessary for approval. The library committee should meet periodically, that is at least once in a month. The librarian should present this list with the details of availability of fund for the purchase to committee for their approval. In the case of academic libraries and special libraries, recommendations by competent authority can be processed by checking for duplication and straightaway orders can be made. As soon as the selection process is finalized, acknowledgement letters to all who made the suggestion or recommendations have to be sent. If some suggestions are not accepted, the pupil consent should be informed with the reason for rejection. In a computerized library, the details are filled up in the acquisition module of the library management software and a consolidated list is prepared. Ordering. Several practices are followed in India. They are tender system. In this system, multiple copies of the list of selected books are taken and circulated among important booksellers in the country to know whether they can be supply the books. They will be asked to specify the price, discount rates and the time needed for the supply. The order is given to the firm which offer the lowest tender for the supply of books. Sometimes the order is split and given to various booksellers who offer the highest rates and discount and the lowest exchange rate. Quotation system. This is the practice of inviting quotation for the supply of books at the commencement of the financial year. The quotation should show the trade discount and the rate of conversion of each foreign currency. The bookseller who gives the maximum percentage of discount and the lowest conversion rate will be provided with the order for 1 year. The quotation system also follows the same procedures of tender, but before the beginning of financial year, the booksellers would have been selected. It also suffers from the same drawbacks of the tender system. Standing vendor system. Here, 1 or 2 booksellers of the repute are appointed as standing vendors and all books orders are placed with them and it is their duty to procure them. General booksellers, wholesalers and publishers either local or from outstations are usually appointed as standing vendor under certain terms and conditions. If some booksellers has all the qualifications and agree to fulfill the above criteria, they can be appointed as standing vendors. There is also the practice of appointing many vendors who represent the various publishers. The Good Office Committee, that is GOC, recommendation used to be followed in this method of procurement, but the accessibility of GOC is being challenged. Books on approval. This is a method widely practiced in India. Here the publishers and booksellers bring books to the library which they consider as useful to the library. There is also the practice of library staff with representative of the users visiting book exhibitions and selecting books subjected to final approval. In both the cases, the final approval is made by the competent authority like the book selection committee or the chief librarian. The advantage of this method is that the librarian or the users get an opportunity to examine the contents of document before order is given. The disadvantage is that some booksellers brings only those books which are unwanted. Some others may not take the rejected books back in time, putting the librarian in difficulty. Which of the above system is to be adopted is decided by librarian or the authority concerned. Order placing work. Whatever may be the system adopted, the next stage, that is placing of orders, will be the same. Order lists are prepared subject wise or publisher wise. Orders are prepared in duplicate or triplicate. The original copy is sent to the book file, duplicate copy is sent either to person who recommended the books or account section of the institution for their information and later verification at payment. The third copy is kept as office copy. In some libraries, there will be printed covering letter incorporating all the conditions and the list of books would be attached to this letter. Receipt of books. When the librarian receives the books and the invoice, they are passed on to the concerned section for verification. In the acquisition section, bills are checked with the order to verify the correctness of the price change and the edition, impression, etc. It is very important to check whether the edition is the library edition or hardbound editions or the cheaper paperback. The paperback edition will be cheap, and therefore, it has to be ensured whether the order was for the hardbound library editions or paperback or softcover editions. The pagination also has to be checked to see whether all pages are there. The cost of book will be given in the inner flap of the jacket in foreign books. Otherwise, the price has to be found out from some catalog or bibliographical sources. In Indian books, mostly the price will be given on the verso of the title page or at the back of jacket. Internet bookshops like Amazon.com can also be consulted for ascertaining the price. If any discrepancy is observed, it is noted in a separate sheet and brought to the attention of booksellers or supplier. In big libraries, a printed form containing the usual discrepancy is used for the purpose. The relevant item will be tick marked and sent to the booksellers requesting them to replace the book or to rectify the defects. Once some discrepancy are noted, in the case of some books, two courses are open to the librarian. He can either deduct the amount of book or books from the invoice or make the payment for the rest, requesting the booksellers to rectify the discrepancy at the earliest, or he can wait until the complaint is attended to by the bookseller. Accessioning. On verification, if everything was found to be all right, the book have to be accessioned or assigned a serial number. The accessioning is done in a register called accessioning register. In bigger libraries, separate register may be maintained for purchased book, books obtained by way of gift, and books received on exchange. Similarly, it is better to maintain separate register for each form of document. Thus, there may be separate register for books, reports, bound periodicals, photos, maps, microforms, manuscripts, cassettes, films or film strips, software packages or data files. An accession register for books should contain at least the following columns, that is date, accession number, author, title, volume, edition, year, pages, publication, supplier, price, invoice number and date, remarks. The accessioning work is done in order of the arrival of books in the library. The person in charge of accessioning work first of all arrange the books in the order in which they are mentioned in the invoice. Then he fills out the columns of the accession register and gives the accession number on the end paper in the beginning and at the verso of the title page. Some libraries put the numbers in some secret page also in order to identify the books. Then the accession number is put on the invoice at least in 2 copies on the left hand margin. The assistant or librarian gives a certificate on the bills as given below. Certified that the books have been received in good conditions and brought to account in the accession register wide number, he puts his initials and sent to the books for further processing. Bill passing work. The assistant may be library assistant or office assistant, checks the conversion rates and check the total for correctness and gives a certificate that the correct amount has been charged for every item. He puts the stamp to that effect and writes passed for payment of rupees. Sometimes budget head also is shown along with this. Weeding out and withdrawal of books. Documents also have their lifespan. Very often the contents lose their value over a period of time, which is referred to as obsolescence. For example, when new editions come, the earlier editions are seldom used. Similarly, many books may become unusable due to the constant wear and tear. There is no meaning in keeping those books in the active collection. Therefore, many libraries resort to the practice of removing them from active use. This process is known as weeding. In modern management terminology, this is referred to as stock editing. Some authors refer to it as deselection. This is essential in order to keep the collection active and vibrant. The books removed from the active collection are kept separately as closed references by some libraries. Some others remove them to the cellar. In Western countries, there is the practice of keeping the weeded out books from a group of related libraries at one place or auctioning them. Whatever may be the method resorted to, weeding out can be done only with the approval of the competent authority. It is necessary to indicate the new collection number in the relevant catalogue cards and shelf cards. The practice of periodical weeding out of the collection has not become rampant in our country. In an open access library, mutilation and theft of books are inevitable. By providing reprographic services and by ensuring strict vigilance, this can be prevented to a very great extent. But still, some deviant behavior is likely. Therefore, there is a provision to write off a certain amount of document used as inevitable loss. In India, a norm followed is to write off 3 books per 1000 books used in a year. A loss above this point is considered to be high. In India, there is the practice of holding the library staff responsible for the loss of books. The trend is changing thanks to the efforts of professional associations. In order to write off books, certain procedures have to be followed. First of all, it has to be reported as lost in stock verification carried out in the library more than once. Then it should be reported to the competent authority and necessary approval to write off should be obtained. Once approval is obtained, remove all the catalogue entries and shelf list related to the books. In the remarks column of the accession register, write withdrawn and quote the number and date of the order sanctioning the withdrawal against the entries of books withdrawn. Side by side, effort should be made to procure copies of books withdrawn if they are really useful. In all probability, these books would be highly useful and therefore need replacement. Computers in the acquisition process. Acquisition is one of the first processes that began to be automated next only to cataloging. In any library management software, the first module will be acquisition. Once this module is invoked, all the jobs right from the preparation of selection slip to the accessioning can be done as sequential job. Duplicate checking, generation of document list for approval, ordering, sending reminders for non-receipt of documents, etc. are done as the routine activities. Online bookshops like Amazon.com has made the job of book procurement all the more easy not only for libraries but also for individuals. This source is extensively used by libraries to ascertain the price of books. Using computer for the acquisition has the added advantage of generating cataloging data from the same files. Technical processing. The major items of the work of technical sections are classification and cataloging. From the management point of view, we deal only with the routines connected with these two processes. We will also deal with the routines to be performed to make the volume fit for public use and to bring the catalog cabinet up to date. In big libraries, it is found to be certainly convenient and even necessary to have a separate set of the catalog for the use of the classifier or cataloger. It is not convenient for the cataloger and the classifier to use the public catalog on account of its distance from the processing section and its constant use by others. According to Ranganathan, it may be convenient in the technical section. In automated libraries, there is no need to have separate catalog entries in the technical section because the OPAC will serve the purpose. The distinctive work of the technical section is to be planned with the reference to the following factors. First one is classification, second cataloging, third preparation of volumes for public use, fourth correction of call numbers and catalog entries, fifth classification and cataloging codes, sixth catalog cabinet. In a large library, it is better to plan the work of technical section on a weekly basis so that the work may be evenly distributed throughout the year. Classification. As soon as the volume from the accession section arrive with a list, tally the volumes and list rapidly. If there is any discrepancy, it has to be settled with the accession section. When the tallying is over, sort the volumes rapidly by their main classes. Unless the book is of very elusive nature, the main class can be readily fixed by a perusal of the title and the contents page, and if necessary by turning through the pages rapidly. While sorting, place on the title page of each volume a process slip to be used for noting the class numbers and the subject entries of the document. Maintenance of staff manual. If some modifications are effected in the schedules of classification scheme in use, these decisions should be properly recorded in staff manual meant for the technical section. This helps the smooth flow of work in the prescribed lines if all the classifier leaves the library or transferred to other section. Because of this procedure, the newcomers do not feel handicapped due to lack of proper guidance. The modification should be decided in staff meetings after great thought and prolonged discussions. Wrong decision can paralyze the entire system. Cataloging. Classification determine the place of book on the shelves. Physically, book can be placed only at one place according to number assigned to it. But the readers approach the document from different angles like author, title, editor, translator, series, etc. And here it is the catalog that comes to the rescue of reader. Without a catalog, the whole purpose of libraries will be lost. It is also important to select the right kind of catalog for the library. Here, the question is whether to go for a classified catalog or for a dictionary type. For a public library, dictionary catalog would be useful because the readers find it easier to consult. The readers of a public library do not require deep study of various subjects. But for a research and special library, the classified catalog would be more ideal since the readers generally approach the reading materials through subjects they expected to have the full panorama of all documents at one place. This is possible only through a classified catalog. The point of decision is the selection of cataloging code, that is whether to select ACR1 or ACR2 or classified catalog code of Ranganathan. Other codes like Anglo-American code of 1908 and ALA code of 1949 have lost much of their significance. In the context of the increased use of non-book materials, it is better to go for ACR2. The next point of decision is about the physical form, that is to have a printed catalog, card catalog or a computerized catalog. If it is a card catalog, whether the entries are to be handwritten, typewritten or duplicated by a duplicator. If duplicator is used, it is better and economical to have unit cards. The answer to the above questions also depends on the kind and the size of library for which has to be made. With the availability of data management softwares, libraries first starting using computers for cataloging purposes. As a result, many libraries have computerized catalog even if the library is not automated. Physical processing. The major routines coming under the purview of physical processing are cutting open the pages. Take each volume and cut open the pages. The cutting open should be done only with a sharp knife. The temptation to use the finger or a pencil for the job should be strictly resisted. The work should be done for every sheet whenever necessary. The impression produced by finding a book not cut in a library for years is damaging to the reputation of the library. Pasting of labels. After the preparation of the catalogue cards, the books are handed over to the semi-professionals or unskilled workers for pasting the labels in the book. The labels used are spine labels, ownership labels or stamp, book pocket, book card and date slips. Then entries are made in all the labels. Other routines of technical sections are correction of call numbers and catalogue entries and recording the changes in the classification and cataloging codes and maintenance of staff manual and authority file, preparation of accession list or list of new additions. Let us summarize this session. The major steps in the acquisition process of documents are selection, ordering, receipt of documents, accessioning and bill passing. For selection, principles enunciated by Drury, Dewey, McColvin and Ranganathan serve as guidelines. Libraries make the use of a number of selection tools like different types of bibliographies, catalogs, blurbs, review and internet bookshops. For ordering, a number of methods like quotation system, standing vendor system, books on approval are followed. On receipt of documents, they are examined and if everything is alright, accession in a register called accession register. Then the bills are processed and passed by competent authority for payment. The writing of documents and weeding out of process also comes under the purview of acquisition section. Technical processing involves classification, cataloging and physical processing of documents. From the management point of view, the question of selection of appropriate classification and cataloging scheme also arises in new libraries. Here are some questions for you. Write a note on the changes that have taken place in the collection building of libraries in the digital era. Second one, briefly explain any 4 principles of document selection. Third one, mention any 5 categories of document selection tools with 2 specific titles in each. Fourth one, briefly explain the steps in the acquisition of documents. Fifth one, explain how computers can be used in the procurement of documents. Sixth one, what are the main routines followed in the technical section of a library? Seventh one, explain the jobs involved in the physical processing of books. Here some books are listed for further reading. Librarianship and Introduction by Chowdhury G.G. et al. Publisher Facet Publishing in 2008. The New Professional Handbook by Coral Sheila and Brewerton, published in London, and publishers Library Association Publishing in 1999. Introduction to Technical Services by Evans G. Edward et al. 7th edition, Anglewood, Colorado Libraries Unlimited in 2002. Library Administration Theory and Practice by Mittal Oral, 5th edition, New Delhi Metropolitan in 1983. Library Administration by Ranganathan S.R., 2nd edition, New Delhi, SS Publication in 2006. Library Management by Sharma C.K. and Kiran Singh, Volume 1st and 2nd, New Delhi, Atlantic in 2005. Here we conclude this session on library housekeeping technical services. We will discuss another topic in the next session. Till then, bye.